Up next, we have our number-specific tools. So let's get back to that Transform tab in the query editor, and assuming we have a numerical column selected, you'll see a group of number-specific tools that are active that'll look something like this. And the first option within those number tools are the statistics functions. And these are aggregators, like sum, min, max, median, average, standard deviation, count, and count distinct. Now, you may be wondering, if you have a whole column selected and you apply an aggregation function that's designed to return a single value, how does that work? What happens? And I'll show you exactly how this works as soon as we jump into Power BI, but the answer is that these all return one value, meaning a single value. So the entire table gets replaced with that one single value. And as a result, you don't really use these statistics functions within the query editor as a means of transforming or preparing a table, but rather as a way to explore it and maybe get some information about it. So things like the count of products, the maximum costs, the median age, questions like that. Now, at this point, you also might be thinking, hey, can't we use the column profile tools for this? And the answer is absolutely. The column statistics and the column profile view are the exact same as what we'll derive using these statistics functions. And this lecture is really all about exploring the tools and options that are available to you within the query editor. Plus, you'll never know when these statistics tools may come in handy. Now, the next set of tools within this group, the standard scientific and trigonometry tools, these actually allow you to apply row-level operations. So you can apply the same standard operation like addition, multiplication, division, or some more advanced calculations like log, sine, tangent, etc. And these are actually applied to each value within the column. So unlike the statistics options, these tools are applied to each individual row within the table. In addition to those standard scientific and trig functions, you also have info functions. And these basically allow you to identify binary flags, either true or false, or 1 or 0, to mark each row in a column, whether it's odd, even, positive, or negative. So with that, let's open up Power BI and we'll practice some of these number tools. All right, so similar to the text-specific tools lecture, we're not going to connect to new data for this lecture, but instead use the product lookup table. So we're going to head back into the query editor through that transform button, and we're going to practice the numerical tools here. Once we're in the query editor, let's make sure we've got the product lookup table selected. And if we jump up to the add column menu, here are my number-specific tools. And you'll notice that the statistics options are grayed out, right? Because they're aggregators. They're going to return a single value. So it doesn't really make sense to add a new column that's derived by one of these stats functions. But when we move to the Transform tab, you can see that we do have these options available to us, right? And these statistics options are active here. And you'll see all of these different aggregation functions like sum, min, max, median, average, and so on. Let's say, for example, we wanted to understand the number of unique products captured in this lookup table. So if we click on product name and then head up to our statistics options, we actually see here that a lot of these options are grayed out, right? And that kind of makes sense because we're asking about a text-based column, right, and not a numeric column. So you can't aggregate or sum texts or find the minimum or maximum values of a text value here, right? All we can do is count or count distinct. And in fact, all of my other number column tools are actually grayed out here as well. So let's head back here to statistics, and we're going to count the distinct values here of product name within the table. And we have 293. So what this tells me is that there are 293 unique product names in my product lookup table. And like I had mentioned, as you can see, it's pretty obvious that this isn't a means of transforming or preparing data to then load it into Power BI. It's really better suited for exploratory analysis. So almost every time you use these stats functions, what you're going to want to do is delete this last applied step that's created to return that full table. All right, so let's look at another couple quick examples. I'm going to scroll all the way over to the right and check out our product price column. And now in this case, I'm curious, like, what's our average product price in the AdventureWorks data set? Right, so I can click on product price here. We'll go back to transform, and I can come back to my statistics tools and click on average, right? And we see here we get $714.43 and then a big remainder here. This is kind of alarming, right? It feels pretty high. So if we close back out, you can actually see here for our product names, right? We've got these different road frames, medium, large, all this stuff. So remember, this is a bike company. And so we probably sell a lot of higher end bike equipment. And you can see here in the product price column, you've got some values here around $12,000, $13,000. Keep scrolling, we go up a little bit higher to, $3,500. So now I'm curious, can we use another statistics function to answer this question a little bit more precisely, right? What is our highest priced item within the data set here? So what we can do is, again, we'll go back to this product price column, transform, statistics, and let's find the maximum value, right? And it's exactly what we just saw there. So a little over $3,500 here. Pretty expensive item here within the data set. And then we can click back on our X to clear this out. All right, so it's pretty easy to use these tools to explore some of the columns within your data set. So let's test out a couple more of these tools here. And we're going to scroll back over to the product price and cost columns here. And because we've already updated these data types to a fixed decimal number, let's do a little test here. Let's say we had left this as a decimal number, right? We hadn't updated this change to currency step here. Right? One of the things that we can do here is we can use the rounding tools from the transform menu, and we can either round up, down, or we can specify the number of digits to round to using that third option. So let's say we want to round this to 2 decimal places, right? And we generate this round off function. And you can see here that we've rounded these off to 2 significant decimal places. But maybe that doesn't make sense for our use case. Maybe we want to keep the data type set to currency. So let's delete that last applied step. We'll delete the change type step there as well. And now we're back here to our currency data type. One of the last things that I want to show you here is I want to do a demonstration of the standard operations. So what I would like to do is not transform the column, but we're going to keep product price selected, and we want to add a new column that's based off of product price, right? And we're going to do that using one of these standard operators. And what we're going to do in this example is we're going to multiply our product price by 0.09. All right, I basically want to return 90% of the product price column for each row within the table. All right, so we're going to multiply this by 0.09. And the way that you can think about this is, let's say AdventureWorks as a company ran a 10% off deal. This might be something like that discounted product price column. So we'll lock that in. All right, so I can see here that we have created the new column, a new applied step here for inserted multiplication. And we've got this, pretty poor column name here. So let's update this to discount price. And the other cool thing to notice here is that because this column is based off of the product price column, it inherits the data type. And when we multiply the product price by 0.9, our discounted price also is set as a currency or a fixed decimal number data type. All right, so I think that's just about everything that we need to do as far as modifications to the product lookup table. So let's head back to our home tab, and we're going to click close and apply. And again, like we've seen, this is basically just updating these queries, and it'll apply these transformations, as you can see by what's happening on the screen. And it's great. It basically loads those tables, refreshes our data model. So if I zoom in here and I look at our product lookup table, you can see at the top here, we have our new discount price column that we had created, right? So that has been added into our data model. All right, so there you have it. That's your crash course in query editing number tools.